Battery-powered saws are great for small jobs, but for big jobs, a gas-powered saw is the only way to go. So the question is this $96 chainsaw just as good as the one that costs $430? Well, let's find out. At a price of $96, the least expensive chainsaw we'll be testing is made by VEVOR. All the chainsaws we'll be testing have an 18-inch bar. The VEVOR has a 52cc 2-cycle engine. They claim it produces 2.55 horsepower. They claim a maximum RPM of 12,000. We're going to test that. The handle might be in the way when trying to fill the bar oil reservoir. The fuel fill port is very easy to access. The chain tension screw is on the front of the chain cover, which is not as user-friendly as some of the other brands. The chain cover is made of plastic and seems pretty lightweight. The air filter design of the VEVOR seems adequate. The air filter does have to be removed in order to access the spark plug. All the chainsaws come with an 18-inch bar and chain. Now that the VEVOR is put back together, let's see how well it starts for the first time. And the VEVOR is made in China. Without fuel and bar and chain oil, the VEVOR weighs 14.6 pounds. Set the ignition switch to the on position. Pull the choke lever towards you until it locks. Slowly pull the starter rope until you feel resistance. Then give the starter rope a swift pull. I made 6 attempts to fire up the VEVOR before it nearly started. To avoid flooding the engine, I went ahead and pushed in the choke. Right out of the box, the VEVOR is up and running on the 7th attempt. Press the throttle lock key and the throttle key to start the machine. At 24 inches from the sound meter, the VEVOR is pretty loud at 114.6 decibels. And the sprocket is spinning very close to 10,000 no-load RPM. At a price of $110 is this BILT HARD saw. The VEVOR saw had a 52cc engine, this one has a 46cc engine. BILT HARD claims that this engine produces 2.4 horsepower. They claim it reaches a rated speed of 8,500 RPM. Just like with the VEVOR, the chain cover seems pretty light duty. The handle location is in the way of filling the oil reservoir. The BILT HARD has 4 bucking spikes that just aren't very sharp. The air filter is held in place by a wing nut and it does seem adequate for a budget saw. However, the air filter does have to be removed to access the spark plug. Having the chain tension screw located on the side of the chain cover makes things really user-friendly. And the BILT HARD is made in China. The BILT HARD is a little bit lighter than the VEVOR at 14.57 pounds. To cold start the engine, push the brake. Flip the ignition to the on position. Pull out the choke. Press the prime bulb 6 to 10 times. Pull the starting cord 2 to 3 times max. The BILT HARD almost started on the 2nd attempt. With the choke disengaged, 2 more attempts and the BILT HARD is running with a total of 4 pulls on the pull cord. The BILT HARD claims 114 decibels and is pretty close to that at 114.3. The BILT HARD does make more sprocket speed than the VEVOR at almost 11,700 no-load RPM. At a price of $200 is this Ryobi brand. The BILT HARD has a 46cc engine, the Ryobi has a 38cc engine. They claim it has an anti-vibration handle for increased comfort. The Ryobi has 4 bucking spikes that aren't too aggressive. Just like the BILT HARD, the Ryobi also has an 18-inch bar. And the Ryobi is made in China with further processing in Vietnam. The bar oil and fuel tank are both located at the rear of the saw, which allows for pretty easy access. Installing the chain on the Ryobi is just as user-friendly as the BILT HARD with the chain tension screw located on the side of the chain cover. The Ryobi does have a reusable foam air filter. You can easily access the spark plug without removing the air filter. And the Ryobi is by far the lightest yet at 11.93 pounds. Engage the chain brake. Pull the choke knob all the way out. Fully press and release the primer bulb 10 times. Hold the front handle firmly with your left hand and put your right foot on the base of the rear handle. Pull the starter grip and rope until the engine attempts to start, but no more than 5 times. Push the choke knob in the run position. And the Ryobi is up and running on the 3rd pull, which is the best yet. The Ryobi is almost as loud as the VEVOR and the BILT HARD at 113.8 decibels. The Ryobi is about the same as the BILT HARD at 11,780 peak RPM. At a price of $225 is this Troy-Bilt brand. The Troy-Bilt also has an 18-inch bar and it has a 42cc engine. They claim it comes with spring assist technology for easy pull starts. It has a low kickback bar and chain that's supposed to cut through limbs real fast. We're going to test that. They claim it has a lightweight design that allows for easier handling and greater comfort. The bar oil and fuel tank are both located at the rear of the saw, which allows for pretty easy access. The Troy-Bilt does have 5 felling spikes, but they do stick out excessively and reduce the usable length of the bar quite a bit. The Troy-Bilt side cover looks about the same as the BILT HARD side cover. The overall build quality of the Troy-Bilt seems about the same as the Ryobi. A wing nut holds the air filter cover and the filter in place. And the Troy-Bilt is made in China with globally sourced materials. The Troy-Bilt is pretty light at 12.51 pounds. Move the starting switch to the on position. Press the fuel bulb 10 times. Pull the choke knob. On a flat surface, put the left hand on the front handle and the right foot on the boot loop. Pull the rope 5 times. Push the choke knob in. The Troy-Bilt begins showing signs of life on the 2nd pull. After pushing the choke knob in, 2 more pulls for a total of 4 and the Troy-Bilt is up and running. The Troy-Bilt produces the most engine speed yet at just under 12,000 RPM. It's also the least noisy chainsaw yet at 112.9 decibels. At a price of $379 is this Echo brand. The Echo has a 45cc and they claim it has a professional grade 2-stroke motor. It's designed for 89 octane or higher. While the side cover on the Echo is made of plastic, it definitely seems to be built the best yet. The Echo definitely has the most aggressive felling spikes yet. It's pretty easy to access the bar and chain oil. I really like the fact that the bar and chain oil does have a pretty large port. And the Echo is made in Japan. The air filter itself is threaded and it holds itself in place. The spark plug can be accessed without removing the air filter. This definitely seems like the highest quality setup yet. And it's 13.53 pounds for the Echo. Move the chain brake lever fully forward to lock the chain brake before starting. Pull the choke control knob all the way out. Push the purge pump 3 to 4 times until the fuel is visible in the purge pump. Securely hold the chainsaw and pull the starter handle several times until the first starting sound. Push the choke control knob all the way in. Pull the starter handle to start the engine. The Echo is up and running on the third pull to move into a two-way tie with the Ryobi. When the engine starts, immediately squeeze and release the throttle trigger to release the fast idle throttle latch. The Echo is about the same as the Ryobi at 113.6 decibels. And the Echo produces the most RPM yet at just under 13,000 RPM. This chainsaw is going to be hard to beat. At a price of $399 is this Husqvarna brand. Smart Start allows for easy startup with minimal effort. The Husqvarna has a 40.9cc 2-stroke engine. They claim it delivers 2.4 horsepower. The handle is sort of in the way of the bar and chain oil port. The Husqvarna has a pretty large opening for the fuel fill port and it's in a great location. And the filling spikes on the Husqvarna look just as aggressive as the Echo's. Just like the Echo, the side cover for the Husqvarna seems very durable. There are 2 metal dowels and a threaded stud that secure the bar and chain. The air filter snaps into place and the spark plug can be accessed without removing the air filter. And the Husqvarna 440 is made in Sweden. The Husqvarna is another really light saw at 11.85 pounds. Engage the chain brake. Pull the choke button out fully and lift the button forward. Slowly press the primer bulb 6 times. Pull the starter rope sharply until the engine attempts to start. Push the choke button down fully. Pull the starter rope until the engine starts. And the Husqvarna is up and running on the 5th pull, which is not quite as good as most of the other chainsaws. The Husqvarna is one of the loudest yet at 114.1 decibels. And 12,514 RPM is good enough to move into second place behind the Echo. At a price of $430, the most expensive chainsaw we'll be testing is made by Stihl. It's a Stihl MS250. The Stihl has a 45.4cc engine. The inward-facing clutch and the outward-facing sprocket makes for a very easy bar and chain installation. They claim it delivers 3 horsepower. They claim that the side access chain tester makes it more convenient for the user to adjust the chainsaw chain. And the Stihl has the most aggressive-looking felling spikes yet. The Stihl offers pretty easy access to the bar and chain oil. And the Stihl definitely has the most user-friendly bar and chain installation setup of all the chainsaws so far. It has an easy access air filter cover to remove for fast and easy filter service. The air filter does have to be removed to access the spark plug. And the Stihl is made in USA. And the Stihl MS250 is also pretty light at only 12.39 pounds. Position the choke in the closed position. Hold the saw firmly on the ground with your left hand on the front handle. Place your right foot through the rear handle. Pull the starter rope slowly with your right hand until you feel it engage. Then give it a brisk, strong pull. The Stihl does not have a fuel primer bulb. When the engine begins to fire, move the master control lever to the starting acceleration position. In the half choke position, 3 more pulls for a total of 9 and the Stihl is up and running. Once the engine starts up, go ahead and squeeze the throttle. The choke will automatically move to the run position. And the Stihl is making by far the most RPM yet at 15,378 peak RPM. Very impressive. And the Stihl is by far the loudest yet at 115.8 decibels. The DeWalt is a battery-powered chainsaw with a 20-inch bar and chain and a 60-volt system. It's an unfair competition since the DeWalt is a much bigger saw compared to the gas saws, but let's compare it anyway. I'll go ahead and install a brand new chain on the DeWalt and I'll be using a fully charged 12 amp hour battery. And the DeWalt battery-powered saw is the heaviest yet at 15.71 pounds. The DeWalt is by far the quietest yet at only 96 decibels. When it comes to ease of starting, the Ryobi and the Echo came out on top at only 3 pulls on the starting rope to start the engine. The BILT HARD and the Troy-Bilt also start pretty easily at 4 pulls. The Stihl takes 9 pulls, which seems excessive for a brand new chainsaw. Chainsaw weight is a pretty big factor to consider, and the Husqvarna is the lightest at 11.85 pounds. The Ryobi is almost as light at 11.93 and still came in third at 12.4 pounds. When it comes to sprocket speed, the Stihl ran circles around the competition at well over 15,000 RPM. Echo finished in second place at 12,950 and Husqvarna third at 12,514. Before we test cutting speed, let's compare engine torque using this chainsaw dyno. The tester measures how much downforce it takes on the bar to stop the chain. The steel plate weighs right at 10 pounds. The 52cc VEVOR performed well at 23 pounds to stop the chain. The 46cc BILT HARD ran out of steam at only 16 pounds. And the Ryobi performed a little bit better than the BILT HARD at 17 pounds. The Troy-Bilt performed about the same as the BILT HARD at 16 pounds. The Echo moves into the lead over the VEVOR at 24 pounds. The Husqvarna performed the same as the Ryobi at 17 pounds of force. And the Stihl moves into the lead at 32 pounds. Very impressive. So the Stihl makes the most torque at 32 pounds to stop the chain. The Echo finished in second place at 24 pounds and VEVOR third at 23. In the next test, let's see how quickly the saws can cut through this very expensive test log. I'll allow the saws to warm up for 30 seconds before beginning the test. The VEVOR has a 52cc engine and it makes a lot of torque compared to most of the other saws. I'll show the first cut for each of the brands at its full length, and then I'll use time lapse for the second and third cuts to keep the review moving along efficiently. For a $96 chainsaw, the VEVOR is going to be really hard to beat at only 15.17 seconds on the first cut. The VEVOR's barn chain is fully warmed up and it's just a little bit faster on the second cut. And 15.12 seconds is going to be really hard to beat. And the third cut is the slowest of the three at 16 seconds flat. That's an average cut time of 15.43 seconds, which is really good. The BILT HARD weighs about the same as the VEVOR, and it has a 46cc engine instead of a 52cc engine like the VEVOR. As they say, there's no replacement for displacement, at least when it comes to budget chainsaws. And the BILT HARD is having a hard time on this test log on the first cut and is finally finished in 20.41 seconds, or 5 seconds slower than the VEVOR. The BILT HARD's barn chain is fully warmed up and is making better progress this time. And the BILT HARD is finished in 19.82 seconds on the second cut. And the BILT HARD continues to improve on the third cut at 19.41 seconds. The average for all three cuts is 19.93 seconds. The Ryobi is at a huge disadvantage at less than 40 cc's. The engine on this chainsaw definitely seems undersized compared to most of the competition. However, the Ryobi does make pretty good chain speed, which is helping make up for some of the engine size disadvantage. And the Ryobi just made the slowest cut time in the lineup so far at 22.88 seconds. The Ryobi is fully warmed up and it's not helping. Unfortunately, it's a little bit slower on the second cut at 23.08 seconds. And the Ryobi continues to lose speed on the third and final cut at 23.34 seconds. That works out to 23.1 seconds on average. The Troy-Bilt is off to a pretty good start, but unfortunately it has a 42cc engine, putting it at a pretty big disadvantage compared to the VEVOR. The Troy-Bilt does make pretty good chain speed and it's making better progress than the BILT HARD and the Ryobi. And the Troy-Bilt is finished with the first cut in 18.98 seconds. The Troy-Bilt is a little bit slower on the second cut, but is still faster than the BILT HARD and the Ryobi. And the Troy-Bilt is finished in 19.25 seconds. And the third cut is almost as fast as the first cut at 18.89 seconds. That's good enough to move into second place behind the very affordable VEVOR with an average cut time of 18.98 seconds. The Echo is starting off very strong with its 45cc engine. It vibrates a lot less compared to the VEVOR, and it also weighs about a pound less. While the Echo is a little bit expensive at a price of around $379, it's definitely a much more refined saw compared to the budget saws. And the Echo just made the fastest cut yet at 14.76 seconds on the first cut. The Echo has continued to make very quick work of the test log, but it is losing a little speed. And it's 15.12 seconds on the second cut. The third cut is the slowest of the three at 16.36 seconds. That works out to 15.41 seconds to barely move into the lead over the VEVOR. The Husqvarna is definitely the slowest saw in the lineup to warm up. With its 41.9cc engine, it's at a pretty big disadvantage compared to several of the other chainsaws. However, it is tuned very well and makes a lot of chain speed, which is really helping. And the Husqvarna is finished with the first cut in 18.68 seconds. And the Husqvarna is performing quite a bit better on the second cut. And 16.31 seconds is over 2 seconds faster than the first cut. And the Husqvarna just made its fastest cut yet at 15.38 seconds. That works out to 16.79 seconds to move into third place behind the VEVOR. The VEVOR and the BILT HARD have a much larger displacement than the Stihl, but the Stihl is a far more powerful saw. The Stihl also weighs around 2 pounds less than the VEVOR and the BILT HARD. And the Stihl just made the fastest cut yet at 11.46 seconds. Very impressive! The Stihl continues to cut very fast and made the second cut in only 11.87 seconds. And the Stihl continues to outpace the competition on the third cut at 12.7 seconds. That's an average speed of 12.01 seconds, or about 3.7 seconds faster than the Echo. The DeWalt makes a tremendous amount of torque, but it doesn't have nearly as much chain speed compared to the gas chainsaws. And the wood chips are just pouring out of the chip discharge area. And the DeWalt is about 3.5 seconds slower than the Stihl at 14.08 seconds. The DeWalt is very consistent on a second cut, and 14.14 seconds is still faster than all the other chainsaws except for the Stihl. And the third and final cut is finished in 14.24 seconds. That works out to an average cut time of 14.15 seconds, which is really good. So the Stihl has the fastest average cut time of 12.01 seconds. The battery-powered DeWalt finished in second place at 14.15. It was very close between the Echo and the VEVOR, but the Echo finished in third at 15.41 seconds on average. I'll attach 5 pounds onto the front of each chainsaw bar, and I'll make just one pass since the test log is becoming very short quickly. The VEVOR continues to impress for a budget saw, and 16.88 seconds is about a second slower than the first test, which is still pretty impressive. The BILT HARD really slowed down without the extra downward force, and the BILT HARD needs about 6 seconds longer than the VEVOR at 22.41 seconds. The 38cc Ryobi seems to be performing about the same as the BILT HARD, and the Ryobi moves into third place at 22.67 seconds. The Troy-Bilt seems to be quite a bit less powerful than the VEVOR, and the 5 pounds of weight is really hurting the chain speed. And the Troy-Bilt is finished in 21.27 seconds to move into second place. The Echo continues to hold its own against the saws with the larger displacement, and the Echo is only 0.01 seconds slower than the VEVOR this time. The Husqvarna is really struggling to maintain chain speed with 5 pounds of weight, and the Husqvarna finally finished the cut in 21.84 seconds. The Stihl makes a tremendous amount of chain speed and is very fast, and the Stihl just moved into the lead at 12.65 seconds. The DeWalt just doesn't produce enough chain speed to compete with the Stihl. The DeWalt definitely needs more downward force to move quickly. So the Stihl once again came in first place at 12.65 seconds. The DeWalt once again finished in second place at 16.52 seconds and VEVOR third at 16.88. This locust tree is dead, and it won't be long before it begins dropping branches on the fence. I'll go ahead and make a cut near the base of the tree to make pulling the tree over a lot easier. These locust trees have huge thorns and flattened car tires and really hurt badly when they puncture the skin. This is a lot harder wood than the test log. This time I'll make just 2 passes. And the VEVOR makes a lot of torque, and that's really helping it make the cut through the hardwood. And the VEVOR just finished the first cut in 21.48 seconds, which is really good. And the VEVOR continues to perform well on the second cut, and is 22.46 seconds for an average cut time of just under 22 seconds. The BILT HARD is having a very hard time with the hardwood. The engine just doesn't make enough torque, and it's really struggling at 37.39 seconds on the first cut. Unfortunately, the BILT HARD is really struggling on the second cut. It's a little bit faster this time at 35.44 seconds, but that's an average cut time of 36.42. The Ryobi is way too underpowered for making a quick cut through hardwood. The Ryobi is even slower than the BILT HARD at 39.82 seconds on the first pass. The Ryobi continues to struggle on the second cut, and the Ryobi is finished in 39.46 seconds for an average cut time of 39.64. The Troy-Bilt is another saw that just doesn't make enough torque to work efficiently with hardwood, and the Troy-Bilt is finished in just under 35 seconds on the first cut. The Troy-Bilt is making a little bit faster progress on the second cut at just under 30 seconds. The Troy-Bilt has an average cut time of 32.44 seconds, or about 10 seconds slower than the VEVOR. The Echo is cutting quite a bit faster than most of the other saws. However, it's not quite as fast as the VEVOR at just under 25 seconds. And the Echo is cutting a little bit faster on the second cut. And the Echo performed well at 21.89 seconds for an average time of 23.44. The Husqvarna could definitely use more torque, but is still performing quite a bit better than some of the other saws on the first cut at 28.04 seconds. And the Husqvarna is performing quite a bit better on the second cut and is finished in 23.34 seconds. That's an average of 25.69 seconds to move into third place behind the Echo. The Stihl makes a tremendous amount of torque and chain speed, and the Stihl just made the fastest cut yet at 18.37 seconds. Very impressive! And the Stihl's bar and chain is fully warmed up and is cutting even faster. The Stihl is finished with the second cut in 17.81 seconds. That's an average cut time of 18.09 seconds to move into the lead. The DeWalt is a torque monster and very well designed for hardwood. And the DeWalt is also very fast at 18.01 seconds. The DeWalt is losing a little bit of speed on the second cut. However, 18.48 seconds is still a terrific pace. So the Stihl once again came out on top at 18.09 seconds on average. The DeWalt finished in a very close second at 18.25 seconds. The very affordable VEVOR finished in third place at 21.97 seconds. A chainsaw that vibrates badly can become very uncomfortable, and the VEVOR vibrates quite a bit at 104.5 millimeters per second. The BILT HARD also vibrates quite a bit at 107.6. The Ryobi is by far the best yet at only 24.6. The Troy-Bilt vibrates quite a bit more than the Ryobi at 51.4. The Echo is by far the best yet at only 11.2. The Husqvarna is a little bit better than the Echo at 10.5. And the Stihl vibrates a lot more than the Husqvarna at 44.8. And the DeWalt vibrates the least yet at only 9 millimeters per second. In the final test, I'll use a push-pull meter to measure how much force it takes to start the saws. I'll make a total of 3 attempts. The VEVOR does require some arm and shoulder strength at 39.1 pounds of peak force. The BILT HARD is about the same as the VEVOR at 38.8 pounds. The Ryobi requires the least amount of force yet at 32 pounds. The Troy-Bilt is very easy to start at 21.9 pounds of peak force on the starter cord. The Echo takes the most force yet at 39.4 pounds. The Husqvarna is a little bit easier than the Echo at 37.3 pounds. And the Stihl requires by far the most strength yet at 44.8 pounds of force. So which chainsaw is the best? The left side of the scorecard includes some basic information about each chainsaw that is not included in calculating the winner of the review. I've converted the raw performance data into a first to last place ranking for each chainsaw on the right side of the scorecard. And the Stihl and the Echo finished in a two-way tie for first place with an average finish of 3.3. The Stihl will run circles around the Echo when it comes to actually cutting through wood. However, the Echo requires a lot less arm and shoulder strength to start the engine. Also, the Echo typically starts on the third pull and it still takes quite a few more pulls on the starter rope to get the engine going. The Echo also vibrates quite a bit less than the Stihl. So if you don't mind the extra effort to get the saw going and the extra vibration, I'd definitely go with the Stihl. If you're looking for a more refined saw that doesn't cut quite as fast, the Echo is a better choice. On the other hand, if it's all about value, the VEVOR is where it's at with an average finish of 4.4 and a price tag of under $100. It actually has a pretty decent build quality for the price and it cuts surprisingly fast. In my opinion, definitely the best value pick in the lineup. That was quite a workout testing all the chainsaws. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have a video idea, I hope you'll take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care and look forward to next time.